Eli. Hi, Vinny. Grandma has chapter 8 now. It's Toad's Adventures. Been so excited to read Toad again. All right, here we go. When Toad found himself immured in a dank and noosome dungeon, and knew that all the grim darkness of the medieval fortress lay between him and the outer world of sunshine and well-metalled high roads where he had lately been so happy, disporting himself as he thought up every road in England, he flung himself at full length on the floor and shed bitter tears and abandoned himself in dark despair. "This is the end of everything," he said. "At least it is the end of the career of Toad, which is the same thing, the popular and handsome Toad, the rich and hospitable Toad, the Toad so free and careless and debonair. How can I hope to be ever seen at large again?" he said. "Who has been imprisoned so justly for stealing so handsome a motor car in such an audacious manner, and for such lurid and imaginative cheek bestowed upon such a number of fat red-faced policemen?" Here he sobs, chokes him. "Stupid animal that I was," he said. "Now I must languish in this dungeon till people who were proud to say they knew me have forgotten the very name of Toad. Oh, wise old badger," he said. "Oh, clever, intelligent rat and sensible mole. What sound judgments, what a knowledge of men and matters you possess. Oh, unhappy and forsaken Toad." With lamentations such as these he passed his days and nights for several weeks, refusing his meals or intermediate light refreshments through the grim and ancient gaoler. Knowing that Toad's pockets were well lined, frequently pointed out that many comforts and indeed luxuries could be by arrangement be sent in at a price from outside. Now the gaoler had a daughter, a pleasant wench and good-hearted, who assisted her father in the lighter duties of his post. She was particularly fond of animals, and besides, her canary, whose cage hung on a nail in the massive wall, or kept by day, to the great annoyance of the prisoners who relished an after-dinner nap, and were shrouded in ante-masker in the parlor table at night. She kept several piebald mice and restless revolving squirrels. This kind-hearted girl, pitying the misery of Toad, said to her father one day, "Father, I can't bear to see that poor beast so unhappy and getting so thin. You let me have the managing of him. You know how fond of animals I am. I'll make him eat from my hand, and sit up and do all sorts of things." Her father replied that she could do what she liked with him. He was tired of Toad and his sulks and his airs and his meanness. So that day he went on for an errand of mercy and knocked on the door of Toad's cell. "Now, cheer up, Toad," she said coaxingly on entering, "and sit up and dry your eyes and be a sensible animal. And do try to eat a bit of dinner. See, I've brought you some of mine, hot from the oven." It was bubble and squeak between two plates, and its fragrance filled the narrow cell. The penetrating smell of cabbage reached the nose of Toad as he lay prostrate in the misery on the floor, and gave him the idea for a moment that perhaps life was such a blank and desperate thing as he had imagined. But still he wailed and kicked with his legs and refused to be comforted. "Hey, it's Titi Maya!"
Are you making video?
We're reading Toad chapter 8.
Hello.
Did you have a good day?
Yes.
Yay!
I'm going to Assistance League because I need black slacks for tomorrow.
All right, she's going to Assistance League. Love you.
Love you.
Look for Russian books.
Okay.
Where were we? So the wise girl retired for a time, but of course a good deal of the smell of the hot cabbage remained behind, as it will do, and Toad between his sobs sniffled and reflected, and gradually began to think new and inspiring thoughts of chivalry and poetry, and deeds still to be done, of broad meadows and cattle browsing in them, raked by sun and wind, of kitchen gardens and straight herb borders, and warm snapdragon beset by bees, and of comforting clink of dishes set down at the table of Toad Hall, and the scrape of chair legs on the floor as everyone pulled himself close to his work. The air of the narrow cell took on a rosy tinge. He began to think of friends and how they would surely be able to do something, of lawyers, and how they would have to enjoy his case. And what an ass he had been not to get in a few. And lastly, he thought of his own great cleverness and resource and all that he was capable of. He only gave his great mind to it, and the cure was almost complete. When the girl returned some hours later, she carried a tray with a cup of fragrant tea steaming on it and a plate piled up with very hot buttered toast, cut thick, very brown on both sides, with the butter running through the holes in it. Ooh, I like it like that. And in great golden drops like honey from a honeycomb. The smell of that buttered toast simply talked to Toad, and with no uncertain voice talked of warm kitchens, of breakfasts, of bright frosty mornings, of cozy parlor firesides on winter evenings when one's ramble was over and slippered feet were propped up on the fender, of the purring of the content cats and the twitter of sleepy canaries. Toad sat up and once more dried his eyes, sipped his tea, and munched his toast, and soon began talking freely about himself and the house he lived in, and his doings there, and how important he was, and what a lot of good friends thought of him. The Galler's daughter saw that the topic was doing him so much good as the tea, as indeed it was, and encouraged him to go on. "Tell me about Toad Hall," she said. "It sounds beautiful." See, there she is. "Toad Hall," said Toad proudly, "is an eligible self-contained gentleman's residence, very unique, dating in part from the 14th century, but replete with every modern convenience. Up-to-date sanitation, 5 minutes from church, post office, and golf links. Suitable for—" "Bless the animals," said the girl, laughing. "I don't want to take it. Tell me something real about it. But first, wait till I fetch you some more tea and toast." She tripped away and presently returned with a fresh trayful, and Toad, pinching into the toast with avidity, his spirits quite restored to their usual level, told her about the boathouse and the fish pond and the old walled kitchen garden, and about the pigsties and the stables and the pigeon house and the hen house, and about the dairy and the wash house and the china cupboards and the linen press. She really liked that part. And about the banquet hall and the fun they had there when the other animals were gathered around the table and Toad was at his best, singing songs, telling stories, carrying on generally. Then she wanted to know about his animal friends and was very interested in all he had to tell about them and how they lived and what they did in their past and their time. Of course, she did not say she was fond of animals as pets, because she had the sense to see that Toad would be extremely offended. When she had good night, having filled with water jug and shaken up in a straw for him, Toad was very much the same sanguine, self-satisfied animal they had been of old. He sang a little song or two, of sort he used to sing at his dinner parties, curled himself up in the straw, and had an excellent night's rest and pleasantness of dreams. They had many interesting talks together after that, as the dreary days went on, and the Gaoler's daughter grew very sorry for Toad, and thought it would be great shame that a poor little animal should be locked up in prison for what seemed to be, to her, a very trivial offense. Toad, of course, in his vanity, thought her interest in him proceeded from a growing tenderness, and he could not help half regretting that the social gulf between them was very wide, for she was a comely lass and evidently admired him very much. One morning, the girl was very thoughtful and answered at random, and did not seem to Toad to be paying proper attention to his witty sayings and sparkling comments. "Toad," she said presently, "just listen, please. I have an aunt who is a washerwoman." "There, there," said Toad graciously and affably. "Never mind. Think no more about it. I have several aunts who ought to be washerwomen." "Do be quiet a minute, Toad," said the girl. "You talk too much. That's your chief fault, and I'm trying to think, and you hurt my head. As I said, I have an aunt who is a washerwoman. She does the washing for all the prisoners in the castle. We try to keep up paying business of that sort in the family, you understand? She takes out the washing on Monday morning and brings it in Friday evening. This is Thursday. Now this is what occurs to me. You're very rich, at least you're always telling me so, and she's so very poor. A few pounds wouldn't make any difference to you, and it would mean a lot to her. Now I think if you were properly approached, squared, I believe is the word you animals use, you could come to some arrangement by which she could let you have her dress and bonnet and so on, and you could escape from the castle as the official washerwoman. You're very alike in many respects, particularly about the figure. I think this might be a good place for us to stop, and we will start on page 140 tomorrow. Love you, baby. Mwah!